I didn't know this, but just a FYI, how they find where the cancer is located in your body. So they put you in the scan, but before they scan your entire body, kind of like an MRI, they shoot your body up with sugar. So there's liquid sugar essentially. It's just sugar water, and they shoot it up into your arm, into your blood, and they take scans of your body throughout while the sugar is being absorbed into your body, and the sugar will travel to where the cancer cells are located, and that's how they locate the cancer cell. And so that area where the cancer is located, it will light up. So my point of sharing this with you guys is stay away from sugar. It's bad for you. We already know that too much sugar is bad for you, but just a helpful FYI health tip. That's not the conversation for today. It's like stop eating candy, but it's an FYI. It's good to know. I'm trying to cut out a lot of sugar in my life too, just trying to stay healthy because the sugar is bad. All right. And maybe our parents already told us a long time ago that sugar is bad, but we never listen. But this is just an FYI reminder. That's how they check for cancer. And so that way in the future, you guys can prepare yourself for certain things. And when you take care of your health now, you make the right decisions today. It helps it helps your life later on. Okay. And honestly, that's what I'm talking about today, which is like, what are your responsibility? I was thinking about this, right? Who want more responsibilities, right? I don't want more responsibility. Raise your hand if you want more responsibilities. Honestly, I think a lot of you don't want more responsibilities, right? I thought about this. Like, what does it mean to be mature? Like, I'm going towards maturity, and I'm realizing that the more responsibility I have as I'm getting more mature, like as I'm getting more mature, as we are getting more mature in our life, we seem to have more responsibilities. All right. The more responsibilities you have, the more mature you are in a sense. Because remember when you're young and you're a kid, like it felt so great, right? Stress-free, nothing, you're responsible for nothing. Somebody else is responsible for you. And that's really what adulting is, right? Being an adult is having more responsibility. And sometimes those responsibilities are kind of unexpected, right? It comes up on you suddenly, mysteriously sometimes, just shows up. So I remember when I just moved to Dallas. Well, I've been in Dallas for a few years now. Um, it was spring, like right now, spring season is coming. I'm living in Dallas. I had a comfortable bed, waking up at 6 a.m. like my usual time. Sun is shining through the curtains, sun rising. I got up, gone through my usual morning routine, brush my teeth, got dressed, get ready to go to the gym. And that's usually my morning routine. Get up, brush my teeth, and head out to the gym, right? And this is the first home that I was living in. And so I was renting the majority of my life. And when I was 25, this was the first home I bought because my friend was like, hey, you should go get a house. Like, why are you renting, right? You can afford it, so go get one. I was like, okay, sure, why not? And so I went and bought a house. I was living by myself. I had a roommate too, so I had a friend of mine. I told him to move in with me because we were single at the time. So I was single. I had a business, a great business that was working, selling stuff on Amazon, on our website, on eBay. It was doing well. I had the freedom. I wasn't, I had no responsibilities there. I was free. I was having a lot of fun, not a lot of stress. Like this was the only time in my life where I had a balance of like good stress. The stress wasn't like overwhelming and heavy, right? It wasn't that bad of a stress. And it was about me most of the time. I know a lot of you guys been in a part of your life where it was about me, right? It was about you. Like I need to do me first. So all I care about was my business, my team, of course, my parents. I still care about my parents, but most of the time I was pretty selfish, right? During that time I was pretty selfish. And then I started dating this girl, and on this particular morning, I did my usual gratitude meditation. Then I head off to the gym, did my morning workout, got to work, got to my office in Garland, Texas. 8 a.m. is our work time. Had a great day and then headed out for lunch. Met her up at a Vietnamese restaurant, at a pho place, if you guys are familiar. And we were seeing each other at the time. And during lunch, she seemed kind of nervous. It's never fun when, It's never good when you sit in front of the girl that you see and she seems kind of nervous, right? And I was like, "What's up? What's going on?" So we sat down, and I knew something wasn't right. We weren't super serious at the time, because we were both focused on our career, at the time, right? You're young, focusing on your career, focusing on your job, your business, whatever it may be. There wasn't really real commitment at the time when we were seeing each other. I looked at her, she looked at me, and I says, "What's going on?" And she just says, "I miss my period." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And she replies, "Yes." This doesn't normally happen. I know my body. That's what she said, right? Women knows her body. So trust me, guys, women knows her body. They know their body well, more better than us. So when she said, "I miss my period," that means it's serious. So, I certainly asked the stupid question, how did this happen? I guess it happened because when a man and a woman come together, things happen. I don't want to go into details, right? But, she took a pregnancy test. She was 100% sure that she was pregnant. And at the time, I was 27 years old. We weren't married. Never thought about having kids or a family. I was still trying to take care of myself. I was at the peak success of my business career. If you can think about it at the time, I thought I was pretty successful, but I was fit, I was having fun, but I was also scared when she told me that. Why? Because I wasn't ready to be a father. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like the guys here, when nobody's ever ready to be a father. And not everybody is ready to be a mother either. Right? No one is ever ready for this kind of situation, right? For this type of event. Honestly, I didn't have to get married or I didn't have to move in or get married with my girlfriend at the time. I didn't. Because we weren't really that serious, right? We were just seeing each other. But I did thought about what it would be like if my child didn't have, a stable home, right? I wasn't sure if I wanted to be with this woman, so that's why these things were running through my mind at the time. Because I was 27, I was having fun. I was 20, when you're young, you're in your 20s, you want to have fun. And I thought about what life would be if I had, just stayed together. Would I be happy? Would I be okay with it? What it would be like? So I was kind of scared and nervous, thinking of these things. Have you ever been in an experience in your life where you have to choose between your own self needs versus, doing the right thing? I don't know if you guys ever been in that position. Raise your hand if you guys ever been in a position where you have to choose, you know, it's either the right thing to do or your own self-interest, right? Yeah. Some of us have, right? And to be honest, the number one thing that separate many of us from being winners and losers is the choices during moments of uncertainty, because I was pretty uncertain about what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. This random child's here. I don't know if it's mine. Just kidding. It was mine. That's a joke. It's mine, 100%. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be happy, right? Or wasn't sure it's going to work out. It was very uncertain. And the number one trait that makes you more successful than 95% of the population, do you guys want to know what it is? It's ownership. It's not just any type of ownership. It's taking ownership of your life. So the core foundation of everything we do in life is rooted in how we decide to do everything, right? Just imagine this. If you're trying to build a really, really tall building, the first thing that these engineers do, they dig a hole that's really, really deep to build out this foundation. And that's how you build a big skyscraper. So how tall the skyscraper is how deep they're gonna dig, right? And if you don't dig deep enough, this thing will, tilt. And there's a building in, I think it was in California somewhere, there's a skyscraper that's leaning. I talked about this before in the past, but the most important factor that determines your success is the mentality of having ownership, right? Building that core foundation. That's what's required from the bottom of everything that you do today. if you don't have the ownership mentality, everything else is just going to crumble when something hard comes, right? So I remember growing up, like I used to blame everybody for everything. I used to blame my parents for not guiding me through life. I blame my current situation. I blame, you know, growing up poor. I blame, the kids that beat me up. I blame, I blame other people for the lack of confidence I had. I was pretty frustrated. I was angry. I was pretty frustrated. I was an angry kid. I wanted to, just prove people wrong. So I grew up, doing a lot of reckless things, right? I just wanted to show people that I was strong and confident, but inside I was kind of scared and insecure. So I got into fights on purpose, right? Sometimes the fight don't even come to me. I come to the fight. So, anyone who ever came at me, I stood up, I wanted to prove myself. So I did things to fit in. I did drugs. I did many things like there's things in our life we look back and you're like, why did I do those things? It was kind of dumb, right? But we did that because we were trying to prove other people something, or we were trying to, just because we were angry, we're frustrated, right? Trying to prove the world wrong. Anyone ever experienced that? Raise your hand if you've experienced that. Like you did things to fit in, you did things to just prove people wrong. We all have done that. And I remember when I was, I did remember this one time that really changed my life a little, like really changed my life. It was a big part of my transformation. Was a friend of mine asked me to join my high school soccer team. It doesn't seem like a big thing, but I realized looking back now, I was reluctant to join because I'm like, why do I want to do this? Like, why do I care? So I joined because they needed team members. They didn't have a lot of people playing soccer. So, the school wasn't like some great soccer team, but I joined anyway. And this soccer team changed my life. We weren't the best. We sucked. 100% we sucked. We were terrible. We lost every game. But when I joined the team, the teammates started speaking a lot of life into me. They supported me. They encouraged me. I never received encouragement ever in my life during that time, for that long, ever since I was young to high school, right? I never received encouragement. The coach started speaking life into me, really encouraging me. This was different from how I was living before, right? Everyone was encouraging me, even though I wasn't great at things. I wasn't a great runner. I didn't kick the ball very well. I missed when I kicked sometime. I wasn't the best. And everyone worked their butt off at every practice. We still lost, but that bond helped me build up a lot of the confidence in myself. And, when I started realizing that was my responsibility to get better and it was no one else's, I started continuing to really develop my confidence. And that really helped me grow myself up. I realized that the one thing I can do is take control of my own decisions in my life. Blaming someone else for the situation or the problems in my life didn't really help me at all because, I'm still here. I'm still going through the same challenges. It's not going to resolve it, right? Saying that I grew up poor, the color of my skin, I didn't speak any English. My English sucked. My parents wasn't always there. There was many reasons why I was blaming other people, but at the end of the day, it didn't change my situation. I had to start saying I need to fix things on my own. I have to fix my own situation because no one will. I had to accept that at the end of the day, it's my life and not someone else's life. So I had to take ownership of my life. Right? So every action, every reaction, every response is something that I had control over, not because of someone else's, okay? Now, I didn't learn this overnight. It took time. Like, I'm just gathering all this lessons that I've learned through my own experience. But, if my life was not moving forward successfully, it is because I chose, I might have made some bad decision and probably I chose to blame other people instead of saying, what lesson did I learn and how can I do things better, right? Instead of taking charge of my own action, right? I was blaming others. I didn't learn anything. When you blame, you don't learn anything. So this led me to ask this question. What is the ownership mindset? And In essence, the ownership mindset is about embracing the power you have over your own life, making conscious decisions to improve, and taking full responsibility for the path your life takes. So this mindset is probably the most powerful thing that you can have in your life, ownership mindset. And it's going to lead you to, personal growth, professional growth, just growth in all areas of your life, right? So today I want to share how to strengthen the ownership mindset, right? That's the goal here, is how do we continue to develop this? How do we strengthen this? How do we reinforce this? All right. So number one, you have to own everything. What does this mean? You own everything, right? You're like, what does that mean, right? I own everything. Well, the first step towards like the ownership mindset is that you are responsible for both the outcome and the process leading up to the outcome. You have to own everything, both the good and the bad that happens in your life. So it sounds a little harsh, right? Like the good and the bad. Like, why can't I just have the good, right? When good things always happen, right? You get kind of like prideful and egotistic, right? When good things always happen, you're like, yeah, man, I did that, I did this, and you don't learn anything. You start closing yourself off. You learn a lot through the bad situation that happens. So you have to understand that your actions or sometimes lack of action. Another word for lack of action is passivity or inaction, right? It can cause event that can lead you to certain decision that might not be good. So an example in my own life recently, I hurt my back. I was doing something silly. I was picking up my cold plunge and it was filled with water. I don't know why I did that, but I was trying to clean it. So I was trying to dump the water out. I was trying to drain it and I picked it up. And I did something, I tweaked my lower back. I've been having a lot of low back pains, on and off throughout the years. But this usually knocks me out for about 2 weeks. I wasn't planning, I just did it. So that was my mistakes there. I did not plan how to do this properly. So I laid down during that time for 2 weeks. I was just laying on the couch most of the time. And I ended up giving myself a reason to watch TV and not engage with my kids. All right. And that started creating a bad habit. Like I gave myself an excuse to Netflix and chill, right? You guys do it. I do it too. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I need to do Netflix and chill. And that time I gave myself an excuse, so don't judge me. All right. You guys, hey, don't cast the first stone if you're not doing the same thing. All right. Nobody's perfect here, so don't judge me. But I just want to share that because I learned something. Like as I'm laying there, I'm like, dude, I'm really developing a bad habit. So a discipline, remember this, a discipline is something you are doing repeatedly every day, right? The opposite of discipline is a bad habit. Either you build up good discipline or building a bad habit. It's our choice, right? You own everything. And so literally I was just sitting there thinking like I was building up a bad habit. That was just, and so I really had to stop doing that and figure out a way to engage my kids, read a book, play games with them. I don't have to move around a lot. Just play games with them, right? Play board games with them, engage with them, and just really spend time, writing on my phone using Evernote. I can use my phone to write. I didn't do that because I gave me an excuse. I was starting to develop a bad habit, and luckily I caught myself. So you got to own everything, right? Every decision you make is your responsibility. That's what ownership is about. You own everything. The decisions before, everything, all the steps that you taken before for that outcome to happen. Remember, bad things happen. It did not happen overnight, okay? Bad things happen through a process behind, probably months ago or years ago, that created the bad results today. Good thing happens as well, the same way. Your good habits, your good discipline will lead up to good results. So number 2, adopt the no excuse attitude. So this happened this Saturday. It was the funny, I guess it's not funny, but a friend of mine called me on Saturday. And he was like, hey, you want to hear something crazy? And I was like, sure. What is it? Hesitantly, I wasn't sure. I don't want to hear something that could be illegal, like, hey, I shot somebody. Like, no, I didn't want to hear that. I want to be an accomplice, all right, guys? So he was like, you want to hear something crazy? And he sounded kind of serious and frustrated on the phone. And so he started sharing with me on his way to one of his clients' business that he was helping to sell. Along the way, during that Saturday, this past Saturday, it was super windy. I'm talking about like tornado kind of wind. And I knew this because that earlier that day, I was trying to fly kites for my kids, and man, literally the kites were just crashing nonstop, flew into trees, and it was not great weather for kites. It was just too windy. And so my friend Joe, he had this big metal sign. All right, it's a 4 by 4 feet sign, sitting back of this truck. He had it strapped down and everything, and he's driving like 80 miles an hour down to this client's location, and that thing took off flying 20 feet into the air, and it crashed into this car right behind him. And he told me he saw this happening in slow-mo, and guess what he did? He gassed it full speed and never looked back, and just kept driving. Just kidding, that didn't happen. All right, that didn't happen. I'm just kidding. That's a hit and run, so we don't want to. I'm not supportive of that. But he pulled to the side. Luckily, the lady in the car didn't like swerve and went out of control. Nobody got hurt. He gave his insurance card over to her and told her, apologize for what happened, and made sure that he took care of the damages in her car. And he felt blessed that no one got hurt that day, but he took ownership of that, right? Some people would have drove off, and I've seen that happen. Some people would just blame, like, oh man, it's the weather, it's this, it's that. But he was like, hey man, it's my fault for not strapping it down correctly. I need to do better because I could have killed somebody. That's taking ownership, right? Sometimes we're so frustrated with something that happened that we don't want to take ownership of it, because it's a reflection of our own lack of accountability, like our own lack of responsibility, our lack of like maybe intelligence, maybe our lack of, like, it hurts our pride a little bit, right? It hurts our ego a little bit. That's why we don't want to take accountability, because we feel hurt by it. We feel ashamed by it. Our own poor lack of decisions, right? And so it's easier to just blame somebody else. And, we don't want to feel hurt. Our brain is designed to protect us. And so that's why we blame other people sometimes. It's because we don't want to feel hurt by our own insecurities, right? And so we continue to make those excuses. So adopting the no excuse attitude, right? You turn all your mistakes, your failures, your regret, your pain into lessons that will help you grow. That's the point of adopting the no excuse attitude. Turn all of your mistake, your failures, your regret, and your pain into lesson that will help you grow. All right, number 3, examine your ego. So an ego is usually referred to how you view yourself both consciously and subconsciously. It's your self-identity. Both men and women have egos too, okay? So remember that, not just men. Usually when you hear about ego, you hear that they're talking about men, but it's all of us. So I recently, so I want to share this with you. I recently heard this. It's really changed my way of thinking, because your daily conscious action is wiring your subconscious habit. Your daily conscious, like your active actions right now, is wiring your subconscious habit. You can look this up. It's true, because every new action you are taking is forming new neural pathways, right? Your brain develops new neurons so that you can, adopt this new ability to do something. So it's developing this new pathways. And so as you continue to do this daily action, that's why, developing habit requires time and effort. It takes time and effort because, you're subconsciously wiring your brain essentially. And so your subconscious creates, once you repeat this action long enough, you develop that subconscious default so that you can operate more efficiently. That's why, when you're walking, the first time you walk, it was hard. Like when a baby first started walking, it's stumbling. But then as this repeated action is done multiple times throughout the baby's life, it gets better and better and better. And now you walk subconsciously. You know, walking is a process of falling and catching yourself. Have you thought about that? Every step you take is like a fall and you're catching yourself. That's really what it is. And so we come back to that same message I was sharing just a few minutes ago about developing bad habits. Like, so you have to pay attention to where you are developing the bad habit, because the act of action, you have to be aware, like me laying down on the couch, just watching TV, that's me developing subconsciously that I just want to take a break. I'm giving myself an excuse to just like, hey, let's rest, relax, and chill. And then if I did this for the next month, that's what I'll be doing all the time. So you have to pay attention to know where to stop the daily action that's causing you to have bad habits. So, you know, having the attitude of course, you know, having the no excuse attitude, and then re-examining your ego, right? So sometime, let's go back to ego. So sometime you have a strong sense of self-esteem or self-importance, and it's okay to have some ego, right? But if you let it get out of hand, it might cause you to think that everything is about you. Then you base your decision on your own biased views, right? Your own type of views, like, oh, it's about me. Instead of listening to advice or feedback, you have to be open to improvement and feedback to help you grow. Remember this, be humble and open to feedback. It's not about being right. It's about making the right decision. That's what it's about. It's never about being right. Remember that when you start thinking that way, it's not about being right. It's about making the right decision. You will be in the right place, right? You will take the right action when you take the right decision. You make the right decision, right? Last one. This one, I think you guys heard this before. I talk about this, is stop being a victim. When I really shifted that mindset, just stop being a victim. Understand that when you believe that you are the victim, you will give someone else power over you. You give the external external forces power over you, over your life. You're allowing them to control how you feel, the action you take, the destiny in your life, right? The government did this to me. They hurt me. My mom did this. These kids did this, right? They said this. I was abused. I was taken advantage of. This happened to me in my past. You're giving away your power to somebody else when you do that. So take that power back today. Instead of focusing on being a victim, be a victor, right? Let's get rid of the victim mentality. Focus on the positivity. Being a victor mindset is, of course, focusing on problem solving, having a positive outlook on your life, being proactive. And then through that, you develop resilience under pressure, right? So be a victor, not a victim.